Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. An important note: the tale of Tristan and Isolde has countless different iterations that often vary greatly from one another, to the point where two versions may differ drastically from each other. The version you are about to hear takes primarily from the poems of Beroul and Thomas of Britain. Other versions may be covered in future episodes. Enjoy! Centuries ago, during the Age of Chivalry, the time of the Mist, the British Isles were the setting for many stories of love and romance. As with love in just about every time and place, the romances of that age were powerful, passionate, and oftentimes very tragic in nature. Yet few stories were as equal parts passionate and tragic as that of the romance of Tristan and Isolde. Our story begins in the kingdom of Cornwall, where King Mark of Tintagel ruled fairly. He had no wife, no queen to call his own, and no son to call an heir. But this did not bother him truly, for he had declared that his closest blood relative, the noble Tristan, his nephew, would inherit his throne. It was a logical choice, for Tristan was fiercely loyal to his uncle, a learned youth, strategically gifted, and tutored in the arts of music and poetry, as well as a nigh unmatched swordsman, acting as the protector of the kingdom, and even defeating Mark's rival, the Irish knight Morold. Other nobles within Mark's court disdained Tristan's favor and claim to the throne, but none of them had the courage to question Mark's love for his nephew, nor to face Tristan in single combat. One day, Mark saw a bird with a single strand of beautiful hair in its beak, gold in color, like the rays of the morning sun. Mark told his advisors that he would only marry a woman whose hair matched the strand that the bird had in its beak. After an exhaustive search that spanned far and wide, eventually, Mark's scouts found such a woman, the fair and stunning Princess Isolde of Ireland, daughter of Gorham and Isolde the Elder. This caused some complications, you see, as Cornwall and Ireland were enemies. Not to mention, Isolde was the niece of Morold, who had fallen by Tristan's blade. Yet Mark would not be swayed, and he sent Tristan to Ireland to retrieve the beautiful Isolde. Mark had full confidence in his nephew's prowess, intact in diplomacy, and the jealous noblemen saw no issue, as they held firm that Morold's family would kill Tristan for what he had done. Yet Tristan was of a different mind. He knew he had to give Isolde's family a reason to both trust him and to broker the marriage between Mark and Isolde. When he landed in Ireland, an opportunity showed itself, as a vicious dragon was laying waste to the kingdom. King Gorham promised the reward of his daughter's hand in marriage to any who could slay the dragon. Tristan sought out the dragon's lair, and using all of his strategic and martial ability, managed to slay the dragon. With the dragon defeated, Tristan was granted amnesty for killing Morold, and an audience with the royal family. He explained to the king and queen his original mission, and they allowed the union of their daughter and King Mark, honoring their promise in regards to slaying the dragon, and ultimately to find some peace between two rival nations. But not all were confident with the arrangement. Isolde's mother doubted the integrity of a relationship between her daughter and a much older enemy king. So she concocted a powerful love potion, and secretly mixed it in a wine bottle as a gift for the soon-to-be newlyweds. Only Isolde's handmaiden, Bronwyn, was privy to the nature of the wine, and was held to secrecy. As love stories are expected to go, things did not go exactly to plan. On the voyage to Cornwall, Tristan and Isolde had made each other's acquaintance, and a mutual attraction was born. But as they both held loyal to their promises, they did not act upon nor even acknowledge their feelings for each other. Having grown thirsty, Tristan found the enchanted wine and poured a cup for himself and for Isolde, neither one knowing of the love potion mixed within. The effects of the potion were instantaneous, for once it hit their tongues, Tristan and Isolde's attraction to one another blossomed into powerful romance. Love that burned with the light and passion of a falling star. The two made love upon the ship, and were discovered by Bronwyn. The handmaiden revealed the truth of the love potion to the newly found lovers, and the weight of their dire situation had dawned upon Tristan and Isolde. Isolde was betrothed to Mark, Tristan's uncle, yet the effects of the potion were not easily fought. No matter the course of action chosen, someone was going to get hurt. When they at last arrived at Tintagel, Mark welcomed his nephew and new bride, and soon after had married the lovely Isolde. The remainder of the potion was given to Mark, and he too felt the elixir's power, his love for Isolde nearly as strong as Tristan's. As time would go on, Isolde lived happily with Mark in his court, for he was a loving husband, and treated her fairly. And yet, when they would retire to their bedchambers at night, Isolde would sneak out of their room and find Tristan, and spend the night with him before returning to her husband by daybreak. This love triangle would go on for some time, weighing heavily upon Tristan and Isolde, who loved each other more than anything, but so too did they love Mark. Further complications would arise, as the jealous noblemen would soon discover the tryst. They immediately went to the king to tell him about the affair between Tristan and Isolde, but the king would not believe such claims of infidelity. Were it true, Mark would have no choice but to charge both his wife and nephew with crimes of adultery and treason. But even though Mark trusted Tristan and Isolde with his life, the seeds of doubt were easily planted, and they began to take root in the king's mind. Tricks were played, and traps were laid, games of semantics and linguistics, servants spying, the king himself spying, even laying flour upon the bedroom floor to catch footprints, all in the name of finding proof of the affair. And yet, for every trap and ambush laid, Tristan and Isolde's cunning outmatched the king and his servants, and the affair continued undisturbed. That is, until one day when Tristan was wounded while hunting, having been cut deeply by the tusks of a boar, requiring stitches. Seemingly as a gesture of goodwill, Mark allowed Tristan to sleep in his bed, as it would be more comfortable than Tristan's own, while Mark and Isolde would spend the night in Tristan's bed. That night, when Tristan and Isolde lay together, his wound had reopened, and stained the sheets of their bed with his blood. When Mark discovered Tristan's blood on the bedsheets, and caught the scent of his wife on his body, he had surmised that the rumors of affair were true. Heartbroken, enraged, and bound by honor, Mark sentenced his beloved wife and nephew to execution for the crimes of adultery and treason against the crown. In a daring move, Tristan had escaped bondage and rescued the fair Isolde from certain death, and the two lovers fled deep into the forest of Moreau. Though they had lived peacefully in the forest, Tristan and Isolde were eventually found by Mark, the two of them fast asleep, fully dressed, with a sword between them. When Mark saw this, he hesitated. Perhaps he was wrong. Perhaps the two that he loved most were innocent of their alleged crimes. But of course, that was not the case. And as Mark could have slain them while they had slept, the two lovers decided to make peace with him. Isolde returned to Cornwall with Mark, and Tristan left the country in exile. Years passed, and Tristan found himself in the kingdom of Brittany, married to another woman named Isolde of the White Hands. One fateful day, Tristan was gravely wounded by a poisoned blade. No healer could save him, but he knew of one who may be able to save him. Isolde the Fair, the wife of his uncle King Mark. He sent his trusted friend, Sir Caden, to fetch Isolde so that she may save him, and to sail back with white sails if she is on board, and black sails if not. The fair Isolde returned with Caden, sailing with white sails as instructed. Yet Tristan's jealous wife told the dying Tristan that the ship's sails were black in color. Upon hearing this, Tristan lost all will to live, and he died before Isolde even set foot in Brittany. When Isolde found her true love's lifeless body, she was overcome with insurmountable grief. She cradled Tristan's body and died of a broken heart. King Mark had the bodies of Tristan and Isolde buried together in the castle's courtyard, where miraculously there grew two trees, perfectly intertwined with one another. Tristan and Isolde could never truly be together in life, but they were forever joined in death.